independent films, documentaries, and web shows for the global Black community. This is Meet the Filmmaker. I'm really excited to talk with one of the filmmakers on kweliTV's platform. It is Rachel Miller Bradshaw. She is the director of All My Own. It's a really great documentary about the Black experience and the Black family. So welcome, Rachel. Welcome to Meet the Filmmaker.
Happy Sunday. Thanks for having me on.
I know. Early Sunday morning too. I really enjoy your documentary. I think when I initially saw like the trailer for it, I did kind of have one image in mind about what the documentary will be about of the experience of the single Black mom. But as I watched the documentary, I saw there was so much more than that. Talk about first for people who may not know what the few people who have not seen it. Talk about what the documentary is about.
Okay. Well, On My Own is an eye-opening documentary that shatters the stigma of Black single motherhood. What the film does is it's an open dialogue that includes community leaders, the single mothers that are featured in the film, fathers, and also parenting experts as far as the broken Black family in America and what we need to do to repair it. It's an open, well-balanced dialogue, so it doesn't pin Black mothers against Black fathers. We just address the statistic, which is right now that 7 out of 10 Black babies now live in a home without a father. 90% of single parent homes are headed by women. So we just address why is it the way it is in the African American community? What is the historical aspect, and how we can all brainstorm and what's being done so that we can repair this and move forward with healthy two-parent homes.
So what's the inspiration behind doing this documentary?
There were a few. My mother and father divorced when I was 11, and it was 4 of us in a home, 4 girls. And I experienced how hard it was for my mom to raise us, sometimes having to be system dependent, the struggles, how it feels to not have a father in the home, how you feel as a child. So that was my own personal experience. And I grew up in Harlem, New York. So I grew up in a community at the time where you didn't see a lot of fathers. So, single motherhood was kind of all around me. Mm-hmm. And then the third, so that always kind of stuck with me, the absence of fathers in the African American community, at least in New York City, of what I knew of. And then the third reason was I have a best friend, and she became a young mother. She became a mother, I believe, at around 20 years old. And her son's father was on and off as far as being incarcerated. And there was a time when she was discussing with him, the struggles of raising the son on her own. He doesn't know how, the son is sheltered, fed, or clothed. Mm-hmm. And his response, he didn't even really have much remorse. And his response was, well, I know you can take care of it. And then if you need help, I know you have your mother there. So, I just had an epiphany at that moment, because I had been hearing this for a while, how strong Black women are. They can do it. They can raise the kids. And I said, where are we as far as our mentality now, where it's just okay for it to be one-parent homes and everything just be on the Black mother, and that's fine? Is that healthy for the children? Is that healthy for the community? How does society feel about this? And I just felt like it was time for me to tackle this, because I knew that this issue, the societal dilemma that we have here in the African American community, it just didn't come out of nowhere. So I wanted to explore historically, where does this come from, and what can we do to repair it? So, it's an exploration for me, because I learned a lot, with the 5 years of research that it took to do the film and interviews.
Wow, 5 years. And I think people don't realize the work that goes into doing the documentary. Like, it wasn't something, especially with the statistics and getting a well-rounded, discussion. 2 things that made me think about, things that you said. Number one was growing up in New York. I'm from Memphis originally, and I think that anyone who lived in maybe an urban community experienced what you experienced, the whole idea of single parenting. I was probably the only, honest to God, the only child in my neighborhood who had a dad at home, for real.
Wow, see? Yeah.
None of my friends did, not one. And so for me, they were the kids. I didn't even think about it growing up at the time, but it was a kind of a big deal to have my dad at home. But I do remember thinking, like, where are the other men? And then the second thing about being so strong, I think sometimes because Black women have historically been strong, and that you can talk about this, you know, a little bit further, that, oh, well, they got it, they can handle it because, you know, we're supposed to be strong Black women anyway, and whatever's thrown at us, that means if the man's not around, we can always do it.
Yeah, well, there's a book by Kay Sue Jewell, and the name of the book is From Mammy to Miss America. And she talks about how Black women have never been in a traditional home, as far as African-American women here in the United States, as far as being housewives. You know, she talks about in the book how African-American women went from being, you know, run by their slave owners to being employed by these same white men. So they've never had a traditional situation in a home where they just stayed home and, you know, the man went out and he earned all the income. So there's always been this aspect of Black women in America having to be very strong and being in the forefront of heading families, being the matriarchs, because, you know, Black men have always been disenfranchised, and it has been hard for them to step up and, you know, be head of households. We also know, you know, how Black men were negatively socialized during slavery. We know that they would make them breed with several different female slaves and pull them out the home before they can get really attached to the woman and the children. So, you know, this was a pattern. This was a behavioral pattern that was developed. So you have all these different elements of what has contributed to, you know, the Black family structure here in America, and what makes it dysfunctional, you know, to not really try to skate around what's really going on, to what's made, you know, the Black family dysfunctional in America. And I think that's just gone on for decades. And you also have to remember a lot of Black males left the South during the Great Migration to go find work in the North, and a lot of them left their families, and they said that they would come back to get their families. And, you know, there were so many distractions in the North, you know, drugs, women, living in ghettos, discovering that that's all they have for you is you're going to be in the ghettos, you know, and they never came back and they got they never came back to get their families. So we had all of these different occurrences that happened that has contributed to where we are right now as far as the Black family structure, and why it's so disproportionately, you know, single motherhood affected.
Right. And in your documentary, you do go into detail about the historical part of why we are where we are today. Why was it important for you to include that? Because it's interesting, a lot of times when people talk about history and, well, we can't blame slavery on everything, but in reality, slavery does play a role into where we are today.
Well, the empirical evidence still shows that African Americans still suffer greatly in this country socially because of what slavery has done to us, and, you know, how the United States has still not really made amends for all that's been done, and the Black family was directly targeted. So of course, if Black men have developed these negative behavioral patterns that they were taught, of course you're going to still see pockets of men, because it's a generational thing, still behaving like this. And then we heard about the gentleman that Iyanla, she interviewed, that had, I believe, 34 kids by 17 different women. I just found that was just amazing to me. I was like, he's really a case study. I would really love to talk to this man. So of course we have to discuss, you know, slavery. We have to also discuss. We remember in the 70s, we have to discuss how welfare was not really supportive of having Black fathers in a home, because they told a lot of African American mothers, if you need assistance, there can be no man in the home. So now if you're the man, you remove yourself because you want your children to eat. And also if you're the mother and, you know, this man is not able to provide, then you have to say, you know, you have to go, because for the only way for me to get shelter and food for these children is for you to not be here. And that also causes a contention too, because it's a respect thing also. It then becomes, well, then I don't really need you here if there's already maybe some sort of little issues in a relationship because you can't provide. So I feel like all of these were attacks on the Black family structure here in America, and this is where we are.
Right. Talk about finding the subjects for your documentary, and you feature different women who are of course single moms. But what was interesting about that, it wasn't the stereotypical what people think of a single Black mom, or she's on welfare, or you know, she's just promiscuous or whatever. All these other negative stereotypes that we hear about Black women. Talk about how you found particular subjects.
Well, what I did, one of them, she was a referral
Mm-hmm.
by one of the directors of photography on the film, Rita Boykin. She was a referral. She said to me, I really think I have a great subject for you, my cousin. She has a very interesting story of having 8 children, you know, 3 different fathers, still being able to buy a home and do all these things. And I think she would be great to talk to. So she was a referral. Now, as far as the other 2 women, I just put out, you know, a casting call. I used Craigslist, and you know, I just said, you know, this is what the documentary is going to be about. Write me an essay. Tell me about your story and why would you like to participate in this film. And, you know, that's how and then I met with the other 2 women, Akina Carter and Tennille Patterson. And, you know, looking at them aesthetically, they look great. They were able to articulate their stories well on camera. And it was just a fit. And, you know, it was very important to me to not make sure that I continue to further the stereotype of the welfare queen.
Right.
You know, just promiscuous, unmarried women that are just having children and they're just on welfare, because we know, as far as even the statistics, that's not even true as far as the majority of women, single mothers that are on welfare. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that it presented a more balanced image of what the Black single mother really is. She is someone that is educated, that has gone to school. She is hardworking. She is loving. You know, do we also address why some of these single mothers have gotten in the situations they're in, and what is the psyche of, you know, African American women as far as the men we choose and the decisions we make relationship wise? Yes, that's also addressed in the film also, but it was a very important to make sure that there is an accurate representation as far as Black single mothers and who they are and how they take care of their kids.
Right, because they all had different stories. So, woman with 8 children, she had been in long-term relationships, but they just never worked out. I mean, no one married her, and there were some choices that she made, but it wasn't like she was just sleeping around. I mean, she was probably anticipating more from the relationship that was actually there, and that is a lesson to be learned for Black women.
No, exactly, because that's one of the themes of the film, is to really make African American women understand that, because the National Fatherhood Institute says in their 2011 report, married fathers are more likely to stay in a home than unmarried fathers. So we really tried to push in the film that you have to make sure that your relationship is secure with the man first before children are brought into the situation. And you know, that I feel like there's no greater security than, you know, marriage, because that's the permanent commitment that you make to each other, and you cultivate that relationship first, and then you move on to have children. Because in Rita's situation, if you watch the film, all 3 men were able to pick up and just leave when they wanted to, because there was no like legal ties. Now, had there been legal ties, especially the one that she had 5 with, because the second father was the one she had 5 with, and they were together for a long time, he might not have picked up and left the way he did.
Right. Exactly. And it also made me think about the very end, when the one little girl was saying, you know, when she grows up, she wants her baby daddy. Like, oh my gosh, she didn't say husband, she didn't say life partner, she said baby daddy. And to me, that was very disturbing, because she's thinking that that's what she's gonna have. She's not gonna have a long-term relationship where someone loves her and wants to marry her and have a future, but just some man that's going to be a baby daddy to her. I was very disturbed by that statement.
Oh no, I think I remember what you was talking about. That was the Ocean Baptist Church interview with the youth. Actually, she said she did want to get married, but she used the term, I need one baby father for my children. It was like that was like, oh, okay. But, you know, it's Jersey City. That's the term that, you know, they use. But she did mention wanting to be married, and how, you know, her relationship with her father is not great.
And what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, yeah. So she did mention that, but they all understood, you know, how not having a father affected them, and how they did not want to continue the generational, pattern of, again, going and, having children and there's only one parent in the household.
Right. And then another character in the documentary, she was married, but her husband, he was abusing the daughter. And, she was married to him. This was her husband. And those situations happen as well. And I think it's important to talk about that because in our community, a lot of times we want to pretend like those things don't exist at all.
Yeah, that's Akina Carter. What happened was Sakina was a teenage mother. She had a child at 14, as everyone will see in a documentary. And that didn't work out with that father. And then she went on at 18 to marry the father of the other kids. And she didn't know that he had like a pedophilia kind of thing going on. And he propositioned her 12-year-old daughter for sex. One time when he was supposed to be taking her to take a test for a gifted school. And of course, at that point, in addition to wanting to kill him, that marriage was over. And ever since then, he's never really taken good care of his kids for a lot of reasons, which he goes into as far as, he had to register as a sex offender. So he had problems getting work. And just because they weren't together anymore, he just decided he really didn't want to take care of his sons now. So that story in itself, I thought was a very interesting twist to this whole situation because it had its own, detailed situation. So I thought that would be great for the documentary because you kind of also have to watch who you're marrying too.
Yes. Well, yeah, you're that's so right.
I don't think she took the time to get to know him. But at 18, what do we really know about relationships and picking a mate? That was also a theme of it. What do you know about that so young of age?
Right. That's so true. And another important thing I thought about that was to me really important in documentary was the male side, because I think a lot of times when people may see a trailer, they may assume that it's a one-sided type of documentary and it's like a man-bashing documentary, but it's far from that. Why was it important to show the male perspective as well when it comes to single motherhood?
Well, we all know that, Black men in America are not represented very well on a positive light by mainstream media here in the United States. And sometimes a lot of the the imagery is wrong and it's just based on stereotypes or based on an agenda. So I wanted to make sure that it's important to feature fathers that do care, that want to be in their children's lives, because there are many. So, it was important for me to feature Vernell Shaw, they call him Twin, which actually was a referral to also by another director of photography on the film, because, he went and he got full custody of his son when he found the mother to be unfit because she had moved on to someone else and was having other children, and he felt like his son was being neglected. So it's very important to show that because we do have Black fathers out there that go the extra mile for their children. And it was very important for me to feature Jay Desponos because he is a co-parenting dad. And he's made sure that he's cultivated a good relationship with the mother. But, he just wanted us to see how he struggles, though, with sometimes not being with the mother. Because there are times when the daughter's like, well, Daddy, I wish you lived with me, don't go. And, that's heart-wrenching to him sometimes when, he has to drop his daughter off. So, we get to see just in real time how it affects children by the way she's like talking to him like, yeah, and I say, I don't want you to go, I want you to stay. And he's like, I can't because I don't live here. These are just the little, like nuances of the film that, people can pick up some sort of lesson from.
And there was a part in the film where men were talking. What event was that you were documenting where there were just men just talking about the issue in general?
Because that was the Bronx Fathers Taking Action. So the Borough of the Bronx in New York City has this big thing that the Bronx Borough president, who's featured in the film, Ruben Diaz Jr., it looks like he's doing it every year. They've made it a big thing where, because the Bronx has a high fatherlessness rate. And, they really want fathers to be in the home. So, they have this big town hall meeting where fathers can just come, they can express their grievances, because you have a lot of fathers that want to do well, but they're having a hard time financially. And the film also discusses for men, your paycheck is not your worth. I believe Scott Leach says that of Daddy's Tupac. He says your paycheck is not your worth. It's your time. So, you have to work with the mother, the child, or the children, or your wife, or what have you. And just make sure you're there for your kids. Just make sure you're there to raise them. So, that was very important because a lot of fathers, they were there to discuss you know, their grievances, their issues, and that the borough president's office is there to help them. So I thought that was very great to capture, because it was real time and it was all different type of opinions.
It was raw.
Yeah, there was a lot of men that were like, we're not doing right, we're just being sperm donors. And it was just great to see, because you got all various type of opinions on the subject.
Right. I thought that was a very powerful part of the film, because a lot of times you don't really hear men really express themselves in that way, because men sometimes can keep, you know, things inside.
Yeah.
And for all these men to just open up and really talk open and honestly about being a father or some of the struggles, I thought was a very powerful part of the documentary, and I thought it was very important to have it in there. And also to have the part where there are, besides what this organization is doing, other organizations are doing. There was one brother that you mentioned, he has like a nonprofit organization where he really helps fathers and so they can keep their relationship with their children, which I thought was really great as well.
Yeah, let's not forget about Allen Houston, NBA former NBA player Allen Houston.
Yeah.
Who is also in the film, and he talks about his Father's Knows Best program, and how, you know, he uses basketball to kind of, you know, like merge fatherhood, and, you know, he brings the kids out and the fathers and stuff like that. And, you know, he talks about how, you know, important it is. And I remember he says he doesn't know what he would have done, where would he be had his father not been in his life, and we see what he's become.
Right.
So yeah, it was nice to have him in there, and, you know, that, you know, he agreed to the interview and to loan his opinion and, you know, time, because, you know, this is very important to him, this whole fatherhood movement.
What do you hope people get out of the documentary at the end of the day? What do you hope people learn from all the great information you gave people?
I'm just hoping that, you know, people learn that, you know, we can reverse what's going on. It's really all about choices. And, you know, for single mothers, if you are a Black single mother raising your child or children, you can let them know that this is the situation that we're in right now. But this is why a two-parent home is more ideal if it's a healthy, functional home for your children. You know, there's that. And then in addition to that, just, you know, we have to be more sexual responsible as far as, you know, who we decide to hook up with, because there's a lot of situations where you see people hook up and produce a baby and they don't even like each other at the end of the day. And it's like we have to be a little more responsible when it comes to that. We have to value marriage. For some reason, in the African American community, for a long time, there's been this running line of marriage is only a piece of paper. And I'm like, no, that's an institution that protects both of you financially. If you're religious, you know, it's a respectful thing to God. I'm like, it has a lot of positive elements to it, and it's a stabilizing.
Right. And
factor.
And this makes me think about something that very recent developments. I guess I didn't watch the interview, but Shonda, Rhimes, and Oprah, they were discussing why marriage isn't right for them. And did you see that at all about that conversation?
I saw the article about both of them saying that, you know, I'm just kind of going to reserve my comments on that, because sometimes women have a way, and the psychologist, Dr. Cynthia Gray, she says that in there. She says that a lot of women get with men, or they do certain things and they make certain statements when they know the man is really actually not going to marry them anyway. So sometimes women will say things like, I don't want to get married, I don't want to this, but that's not really the issue. The man has not married you yet, because if he really asked, you would go on and do so. So we don't really know personally what went on with Oprah and Stedman and what Shonda Rhimes' issue, whereby now she's just making this type of statement. So I kind of just not take those things on when sometimes you hear women saying this. Not trying to say every woman wants to get married, but sometimes I just don't take this on, because next thing you know, if they get proposed to tomorrow, next thing you know, we're hearing all about that, and they're going for the dress and they're this and that, or this, my marriage license. So I just sometimes with those things kind of put aside. Yeah.
I mean, because there are, you know, I think I did read a study that Black women are least likely to be married, which is another issue within itself. So
it's a big issue.
Yeah, I think Black women, they want to be with, you know, they want companionship. And how can women do that if, you know, they're not getting proposed to? And I think that is something also to be talked about when it comes to, you know, the Black marriage and the importance of the Black marriage. But I think is another thing you talk about in the documentary. Like, it's just important to have a really healthy Black family unit.
No, I agree, because there's so many. It's a great to have a partner, because, you know, sometimes we all know in the Black community that there are bouts of instability. And sometimes if you're not working and your partner is, you know, your partner has to pick up that, you know, that baggage, but will do it, and vice versa. And when it's just kind of you and you're raising children, that could be a very tough situation. That's a very tough situation. I do know single mothers that do a good job, a damn good job, and they're able to, but there's also too many that are struggling. So it's not an ideal situation to just be on your own doing this.
Right. And I think studies also show that, you know, a family unit is less likely to be in poverty. If you have a mother and father, you're less likely to be in poverty than just a
Yeah.
single parent. It's another great reason to talk about the Black family unit.
Yeah, we can't deny the statistics. We can't deny what are the realities. It is what it is. And we see how we're supposed to move forward.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So this was a really great conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you. If anyone has not seen the documentary, you definitely should. You can see it right now on kweliTV. You can stream it. Right now, we're only $2.99 a month or $19.99 a year. All you got to do is log in, create a password, select a subscription or rent for 99 cents. And then in the search button, you just type in On My On, and then you'll find Rachel's awesome documentary. You can just watch it right away. So thank you, Rachel, for this great conversation. It's really great talking to you, and you're passionate about this particular subject. Are you looking to do any follow-up films on this particular topic, or what things are you working on right now?
Yeah, I'm just going to move it forward. I'm just going to keep addressing, you know, the Black family, the Black population in the United States, and our status and our progress here. So yeah, that's kind of my thing, is the whole, you know, moving the family together, you know, getting us stable. So it'll be something along those lines. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel Miller Bradshaw. She's the director of On My Own, and I'm the CEO of kweliTV.
Thanks for
Until
having
next,
me.
thank you.